Hello, I'm Dwayne Hermas, a founding partner in the law firm Hermas Sargent Bates. When Church Mutual approached us to be involved in this video, we welcomed the opportunity. We've dealt with numerous child sex abuse cases and know firsthand the devastating effects of this crime on victims, on congregations, and on a ministry's future. I want to thank you for the concern you've shown by taking the time to watch this video, and encourage you to share the video with the members of your congregation who are involved in leadership positions and youth activities. Thank you.
A man in his 20s accuses a long-standing pastor of repeated sexual assaults during counseling sessions when he was 11 to 14 years old. A volunteer at a Sunday school is accused of inappropriate touching and fondling by first one, then a score of children over a number of years. A deacon and community leader is arrested for allegedly showing pornography to young boys on a weekend campout.
Incidents of child sexual abuse happen in worship centers of all sizes, all denominations, in all areas of the country. A reported case has a profound impact on a worship center and its members. A congregation can face bitter divisions. New people are warned away from that place.
An allegation, trial, and criminal conviction can lead to huge financial settlements against a worship center and its board members. In most jurisdictions, ministries are no longer protected by charitable immunity. I'm Kristen Blanford. I've represented religious organizations in cases involving the sexual abuse of children. Lawsuits usually filed by a child's parents against the church can claim negligence for hiring a convicted offender, or negligence in supervising the offender, or failing to react to a report in a competent manner. Legal defense in these cases can be extremely costly and prolonged, whether the suit is successfully defended or not. And when any of the allegations are proven, judgments have sometimes been huge.
Worship centers are especially vulnerable to sexual predators. Yours is a faith-based organization. You want to trust people. Serial sexual abusers depend on that. You rely on volunteers, so much so that you may be uncomfortable asking questions that are intrusive and could be embarrassing. Sexual offenders know how to play that. And worship centers are about the last social institutions to react to the threat of sexual predators. Where else can they go to have access to children in an atmosphere of blind trust?
How do you protect your ministry, and more importantly, your children, from the threat of child sexual abuse? In the next 10 minutes, we're going to cover this topic from two perspectives: how to help prevent it from happening at your worship center, and what to do if it does happen.
First, I think it's important to define what child sexual abuse is. It includes any contact or interaction between a child and an adult in which the child is used for the sexual stimulation of the adult or another person. The exact definition varies by state. There are two types of offenses, touching and non-touching, like using inappropriate language, showing pornographic images to children, or displaying or asking children to watch sexual acts. Child molesters are professionals at what they do. They often deliberately set up a double life, a public life full of good works and appropriate behavior, and a private life filled with molesting. They count on people believing that a person who is responsible and kind in public couldn't possibly be a child molester.
In a mid-sized community, a very pleasant man was charged with enticing children at a worship center for indecent purposes and child molestation. He had volunteered as a youth worker before at 3 different worship centers in 3 different communities.
The first situation we'd like to address is a very uncomfortable one. What do you do when you learn a convicted sex offender attends services or wants to attend services? Many have faced this situation. If you do, ask the person if attending services where children are present is a violation of their parole. In many instances, it would be. If not, one solution is to establish a mentor or buddy system where a trusted member of your congregation attends all services with the sex offender, and access to youth in your organization is restricted. You should discuss the situation with a local attorney. Now let's discuss another area, your hiring and screening of employees and volunteers. Effective screening diverts criminals and helps prevent hiring convicted sex offenders. It is not unusual for an individual who has been terminated at one worship center or school to seek employment at another. Here are 6 screening guidelines. They should be used for both your employees and volunteers.
First, all your applicants should complete an application. Questions to cover include current and previous residence addresses, current and previous employment with addresses, dates, duties, titles, and reasons for leaving, names and addresses of schools and degrees, references from employers and organizations serving children, and where it's not prohibited by state law, any pending criminal charges or criminal history. Second, during your initial interview of an applicant, have an associate participate if possible. Get a second impression. Review all the statements on the application. Pursue gaps you may notice, such as gaps between employment or a reluctance to name a reference. Third, contact all references and employers. Keep their responses in the interview file. Follow up with a written request if you don't get a telephone response. Then prepare a written summary of those comments. If responses were only dates of employment, note it. Fourth, have a follow-up interview. If there are discrepancies, discuss them with your applicant. If you feel you want to hire an applicant despite detrimental information, record your reasons why. Fifth, do a background check on prospective applicants, both employees and volunteers, especially if they'll be working with children. Recommended screens include Social Security verification, a national criminal search, a state criminal search, a county criminal search, and a sexual offender search. If you need assistance, contact your insurance agent for recommendations on companies offering background screening services. Finally, when you offer a position, ask for a complete set of fingerprints. People with criminal records may refuse. Yes, it is uncomfortable to ask, but fingerprinting is commonly required for people entrusted with large sums of money. Certainly, the value you place on your children's safety is greater. Make sure you consult with an attorney in your area who can advise you of state laws regarding criteria that can and can't be used in the selection process.
In a suburban community, a congregation member was convicted of the sexual abuse of a young girl. He would routinely give her a ride home after choir practice and routinely molest her.
Establishing firm supervisory guidelines, along with the facilities and operational practices it takes to put those guidelines to use, is essential to effective prevention. First, look at the physical structure of your activity areas. Here are some ways they might be improved.
Install windows in interior walls of classrooms and make it a policy to keep doors open. Always require that activities be conducted in an open area or room, not in a private office. Periodically, inspect classrooms, offices, workplaces, and other areas where children and adults are together. Also, check bathrooms, closets, and areas where sexual abuse might occur.
Now let's establish some operational guidelines to follow. The first one I would suggest is the 6-month rule. Require that all volunteers be members of the congregation for at least 6 months prior to being given a position of trust with children. Here are some more guidelines.
Always require that any activity involving children be supervised by a minimum of 2 adults, especially field trips and related activities. Preferably, the 2 adults are not a husband and wife. Pay special attention to adults who spend considerable off-duty time with the same child or children. Encourage employees and volunteers to limit their physical contact with children. designate a confidential advisor that a child can go to at any time without special permission to discuss any problems they might be having. Establish abuse prevention training for employees and volunteers. Make sure they know what sexual abuse is. Define it for them with clear directions on how to report suspicions. Let them know that good faith reporting will be kept protected and confidential. Establish a written standard of conduct for adult-child relationships designed to protect your children, but also to protect volunteers and workers against false allegations of abuse. It should include guidelines of conduct and contact during and after working hours, and guidelines for the transportation of children. Communicate this standard to your staff and all members of your congregation, especially parents.
How well you are prepared for an allegation of sexual abuse can be crucial, so I urge you to learn how to react. Your legal obligations will vary from state to state, so learn what constitutes sexual abuse in your area, who must file a report, and how to file it. Take any reported incident seriously. Don't minimize it. Don't deny it. Don't try to explain it away.
If an incident is reported, notify the authorities immediately. And don't wait for investigations and charges before notifying your liability insurance company. They might want to take statements and begin their investigation immediately. And you might need the advice an insurance company specializing in the religious market can give you. Inform the accused and discuss it with them. Have a witness present. If the accused is an employee, suspend them with pay while a confidential investigation is conducted. Don't try to conduct an investigation by yourself. It could facilitate continued abuse and subject your worship center to civil lawsuits alleging negligence. The welfare of the victim and prevention of further abuse is paramount, so give the victim and his or her family support. Along with a reporting agency official, meet with the child's parents and, with their presence and permission, the child.
I've been dealing with sexual offenders for 25 years, and I can no more identify one than an untrained person can. My best protection is that I know that. Couple a sexual molester's ability to deceive with the belief of so many people that nice, likable people wouldn't do anything like that, and you've created the perfect environment for abuse. As the author Gavin de Becker said, niceness is a decision, not a character trait.
Establishing trust and a sense of faith in young people is essential to the future of your ministry. The guidelines and methods outlined in this video are a first line of defense against the unknown predator. Church Mutual Insurance Company offers other materials to help prevent sexual molestation and misconduct, as well as an array of brochures, videos, posters, and checklists to help make your worship center and activities safer for every member of your congregation. All Church Mutual safety materials are free, simply for asking. Go to Church Mutual's website and click on Safety Resources for a complete listing. Or if you prefer, contact the Corporate Communications Department at Church Mutual.